This is a presentation in the webinar series for November, Learning Menus. The category is Soup and Salad, and this is introducing supplementary texts and the tasks that go with them. I'm your presenter, Kelly Stair, author of VoiceThread for Digital Education and QR Revolution. My work can be found at angrybunnypublishing.com, and my email address is provided below. So, in case you're new to this series, what is a learning menu? Learning menus are a differentiation strategy. The menu offers students choices of learning activities that they complete in order to accomplish a learning goal. There are different points awarded for different types or levels of tasks, and the menus for this particular project are divided into sections using the analogy of a restaurant menu. So you have your beverages, your appetizers, your entrees, soup and salad, and desserts. Students choose options from each section and complete those options in order to gain points for each section. Those options are tasks or activities that students complete in order to earn that particular set of points. For more webinars on learning menus, you can go to angrybunnypublishing.com. On the events page are the upcoming webinars, and on the recent blogs or the online workshops link, you can find the archived webinars for November. So our idea is that we are going to create a learning menu, but instead of just having a single task or activity or learning goal, we're going to incorporate an entire unit into a learning menu. We talked about beverages, which were a vocabulary study. We talked about appetizers, which was the background information students need in order to be able to be successful at that particular unit. And today's webinar is on soup and salad, which is the supplementary texts and tasks. The next two webinars will be on entrees, which are the anchor text and the tasks that go with that, and then desserts are summative assessments. So let's talk about this idea of supplementary texts. Supplementary texts are the texts that are incorporated as additional text or information on a particular unit. So it can be any variety of genres of text. It can be articles, videos, poems, short stories, or compilations of different things. Images work well, tweets, blogs, all kinds of things work in this idea of supplementing information from an anchor text. Compilations can include a PowerPoint presentation, a voice thread, Storify, etc. Supplementary tests offer multiple viewpoints. They can include extension activities. They can include real-world connections or labs. They can be demonstrations for different skills or different informational units. They can be opportunities for students to do inquiry and create their own ideas of supplementary texts. Supplementary texts provide the largest variety of tasks, types, and intelligences. So this is really where we get down to work with differentiating. There should be many options for this soup and salad, this idea of supplementary texts. In fact, if you have a unit that spans a month, you might have as many as 20 supplementary texts or suggestions of different options students can do for those. For me personally, I would do at least one a day of just different supplementary texts that students can do. Now, we'll get into what different types of texts are. If that seems like way too many, you're going to be surprised what can be considered a supplementary text and the task that goes with it. Supplementary texts are the places where you incorporate multiple literacy strategies, and this is really where you can get down into how to get students to really perform well in literacy tasks. You can scaffold those tasks so that students have a background in how to do them, and so you incorporate the teaching right into the task. And this should push their reading, their writing, and their discussion skills. So why use these texts? Why not just use a textbook, or why not just use an anchor text? Supplementary texts provide additional information. They can provide multiple perspectives of a topic. So if you're talking about something like genetics, there are a lot of different perspectives on that, and so you might include articles or videos or whatever that give different perspectives of that topic. And so it gives students a more balanced look. It can also help you focus on different learning styles, or keep kids focused on what specific information you want them to know. And so if you overview something with your anchor text and then you provide specific examples, this helps them stay focused on what are the most important things for them to know. And it kind of reinforces that information. Supplementary texts also chunk information and then connect it back to the big picture. And so you'll have very specific information included in your supplementary text. Think of like a magazine article on a topic that relates to your anchor text. That article is going to be very specific in whatever it's talking about, and so it provides more information, but it also chunks that information so that they can see it in context of the big picture. If you think of chunking information, content areas such as social studies and science classes might use a textbook as the anchor, and then that becomes the main idea. And then all of your supplementary texts are those supporting ideas. So that textbook gives you an overview, but then all of those supplementary texts give you the support and the additional information that you need to really understand a topic deeply. In an English class, you might have a little bit different organization. Your anchor text might actually be a novel, in which case your supplementary text can explore the many ideas or themes involved in that novel. And so you can take different literacy strategies, you can take different writing techniques, you can take different themes or different ideas or different character perspectives, and you can include supplementary texts that support that, the learning or the many ideas in that novel. Supplementary texts provide various angles from which to approach a subject. So if you have a subject that is perhaps controversial, you can see it from all of its different perspectives, whether they are opinion perspectives or historical perspectives, how people's views of something have changed over time. And supplementary texts finally add depth and layers of knowledge. And so not only are you reinforcing by saying things over again in different ways, but it also adds layers to that knowledge. And so students can really start building on the ideas and pushing them beyond what an anchor text can do. There are a lot of different types of supplementary texts. In fact, anything that is not your anchor text can be a supplementary text. The idea is that these are smaller, shorter, focused pieces. You can include articles from magazines or newspapers, videos, short videos, stories, poems, websites, blogs or microblogs, the news that is written online, video, podcast formats. You can use primary sources. You can use short pieces of TV shows or films, commercials, and compilations of any of these. In addition, you can include things like quotes and then add writing assignments that focus on applying whatever is in that quote to a bigger piece of text, and that can be the supplementary text as well. Some of the tasks that you can do with supplementary texts include focusing on literacy strategies. And so you can get all of those great strategies for reading deeply and making connections and making predictions. You can focus on those strategies in your supplementary text as more of a guided process, and then when students get into the anchor text, they have the background to do that. You might also have tasks with writing, whether it's writing online or writing in journals or writing reflections, comments, connections. You can have reading tasks, and once again, there are lots of things that students can read. They can read editorial cartoons, they can read pictures, they can read articles, magazines, they can read different websites that are online and available for them. You can have discussion tasks, which are speaking and listening tasks. When students are discussing, they are speaking, but then they're also listening to each other. And so you can have small group discussions, you can have large group discussions, you can have discussions with back channels as your task. And so really getting those discussion, speaking and listening skills going is a great thing for tasks to focus on in the supplementary texts. In addition, you can use viewing tasks, such as looking at images or videos that use those visualization or visual literacy skills. You can do organizing tasks where students are asked to either gather information or take information that is provided for them and organize it in different ways. And that involves those higher level thinking skills and anything that helps process information. You can also use tasks that give students students a chance to focus on or improve their different literacy skills. So if you have students that are struggling in a particular area, they're not using context clues well, you can use supplementary text to work on those literacy skills. I'm going to show you a demo with VoiceThread, and it's used with a poem that can be found at the Best Teen Writing Vision and Voice website, which is right here. Hold on just a sec and I'll pull this up. This is a VoiceThread that acts as its own supplementary text for a poem called Caught Like Smoke. Like I said, that poem can be found at the Best Teen Writing site. It is available online. And this VoiceThread presentation adds some literacy skills and practices for students to work through in order to, well, gain skills, to practice skills, and to really dive deep into the poem and pull out some interesting things. So there are 5 slides on this VoiceThread, and this VoiceThread is a supplementary text. It is in addition to the poem, which would be considered the anchor text. VoiceThreads work like this. So you have your slide, and this one is just an image. And then you have your discussions. And so this is the main discussion, and this will play. You can see this is moving. So this says, notice how the hijab is used as a symbol throughout the poem. So students have read the poem already, and now they're doing these texts. Go back. It represents different things at different times in the speaker's life. How do you see the hijab being used as a symbol or representation of something more in the speaker's life? And then I go into, if you need more help with symbols, I scaffold this a little bit. I've got a YouTube video here and a YouTube video here. So if students don't have the background knowledge to know what symbols are, then they can go and find those and then still be able to comment. So then we'll add their comments. They can type them, they can record them, or they can use their webcam to make comments. They'll sign in right here, they make their comments, and then it'll show up on the side. And if I move my screen, you can see we have a comment over here. Let me go back. Hope that wasn't too disorienting. And so then the VoiceThread will continue through, and it goes to the next slide. This one is a video, and my comment will come up, and then the video will come up. I'm going to pause it so that it doesn't play. Okay. And then you've got my comments here. So you're missing a little bit. There we go. This poem is rich in similes and metaphors. After watching this refresher video, share a simile or metaphor that you found in the text. Describe the effect of that comparison. And so I'm asking students to identify a simile or metaphor and then describe what the effect of that comparison is on the speaker. So for an example, the speaker describes the bully's eyes as robin's egg blue. And there are a lot of blue things she could have compared them to. So choosing robin's eggs made me think of immaturity because eggs are not fully developed. And so when you get that idea of eggs, it's like babies or immature. And so that's why I think she used robin's eggs. So that's just an example for students to use, and then they would type in their own. This one is talking about the relationship between the mother and daughter, and this one asks for the student to make a connection between themselves and that relationship and how they connect to it. This one talks about the title of the poem, Caught Like Smoke, and this one talks a little bit about naming and why you would choose names for different things, and it asks students to rename the poem with something that they thought applies. And then this slide asks students to look at the themes of the poem and how things can be loved unconditionally as a child and then become painful as we grow up. And then it says connect to your life. So this is another personal connection. This is the idea of supplementing an anchor text with a technology tool. And so I'm going to here. There we go. Move my screen back. All right, so that's the idea of using VoiceThread to create a supplementary text that actually helps guide students through literacy processes. They're thinking about writing styles, similes, and metaphors. They're thinking about making personal connections. They're thinking about the different ways in which relationships work, and then connecting that and comparing it to their own relationship with their mother. And so they get lots of different activities involved all in this one poem. So this would be a supplementary text for that poem. If you're interested in more ideas for using VoiceThread as an educational tool, VoiceThread for Digital Education is my ebook, and it's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Here's some other ideas for supplementary texts and the tasks that you can do with them. You can do all kinds of things for texts. Let's start talking about some tasks that you can do and the technology tools that you can use to add that component to these tasks. You can do content journals or write-to-learn journals, which are places where students will write their connections and their thoughts and their notes about whatever it is that you're studying. And it's a place for them to both reflect and make outside connections and then process the information that they're learning. One tool to use with that would be a blog. You can use EduBlogs or you can use Blogger if it's not blocked at your school. EduBlogs is rarely blocked at schools. Blogger sometimes is, but Blogger is really easy because you can use it through a Google account. Graphic organizers are a great way to present a task for students to organize their information. If you're looking for graphic organizers online, Exploratory is an excellent source for those. KWL charts have long been a tool that teachers use to first activate students' background information and then set the stage for what students expect to learn. KWL is the what you know, what you want to know, and then what you learned. And so it's the different stages of the reading process. I like to use KWL discussions, and that means that in addition to having something that they're writing on or something that they're keeping notes on, they're also discussing it with other students. And so when they go through what do I know about the topic, they're actually sharing those things that they know, which actually helps activate other students' information. If you do a KWL chart and you have students that seem like they don't know a lot about it, but then you get them discussing and they're like, oh yeah, I knew that. So it's really important for students to be able to collaborate that way. I use Today's Meet for my KWL discussions. Today's Meet is a back channel. It's similar to Twitter, but you don't have to sign in. And so you can create a room for your students, and they can go on, and it's 140 characters, so it's a very easy, quick way to see what students are thinking. And you can start with, okay, what do you know about this topic? And students can almost tweet, but you're using Today's Meet, so it's not called that. But they can send their 140 character answers into Today's Meet, and then if you project it onto a computer screen or onto a projector screen, then everybody in the class can see what everybody else is saying. Read-alouds are another great way for teachers to model reading fluency and also to show how to read complicated texts. A lot of times you have texts for informational texts that have a lot of features that students might not know how to read, and they are not as linear as a novel. And so they need to know, here's the title, here's subtitles, here is like a little shout out on the side, here's this graph, and here's how you read it. And so doing a read aloud really helps you model the reading process, a read aloud, think aloud, and you can use Screencast-O-Matic to do that. Screencasts create a video of whatever's on your computer screen. And so if you pull up the web page or the PDF document or whatever it is that you want to demonstrate how to read to students, you can do that. I'm actually using Screencast-O-Matic right now, and I'm underlining the word read aloud and with the big circle. And so as I go through, I can say, here's my title, and here are my bullet points. This slide doesn't have a lot to talk about, but you can talk about the organization of things. You can talk about why this is here and how it's set off, and maybe why all of these things are in parentheses. But it lets you show students how to read a text. Now, obviously, they probably aren't going to need help reading like a novel in that respect, but something that's more complicated, like a website. It's like, these are the links over here that are ads. You don't want to go to those because they're going to take you to something that's going to want money from you, for example. Scaffolded reading is another way to include supplementary texts or another task to do with them. When you scaffold your reading, you include guiding questions, you include vocabulary definitions, you include like maybe some summaries or some content things, anything that's going to help your students read a text that's above their reading level. You don't scaffold text that is at or below student reading level. They don't need it. But if you want students to read something that's very complicated and that they might struggle to read either from the vocabulary or from the background knowledge or from how the text is set up, you might want to scaffold it. And so that includes adding pieces that help students read and make sense of the text. You can do it as a question form, you can do it as a, okay, think this way form. Either way works, but scaffolding text is really important when students, or when you're asking students to read something that's above their reading level. Two different tools that you can use. You can use Scribble, and you can use Annotate, and they both work the same way. They can both work with websites. Only Annotate can work with a PDF file. Scribble only works for websites, but Scribble's a little bit easier to use, and Annotate's a little more complicated. So depending on what you need, one of those tools should work for you. The final one that we're going to talk about is doing student research or inquiry. We come up with a lot of supplementary texts that help support the ideas that we find important. But sometimes the best learning experiences for students are to do their own research or to do their own inquiry. And so they grab an idea and they go after it. And this adds a motivation to what students are learning. And so they'll find their own supplementary texts based on their research, based on their inquiry. Some of them will be good, some of them will be not so good. You just need to let them go and teach them some tools for evaluating what makes a good supported text, talking about bias and all of that stuff. But two tools that you can use to do that, you can either use Scoop It or you can use Storify. Scoop It is for websites, Storify is for any social media. So they'll get Twitter, they'll get Facebook, they'll get websites, anything that's social can go through Storify. And both of those are great tools for having students do research or inquiry into a topic. I wanted to include some resources, and if you download the PowerPoint, all of these links are clickable. These are some resources for literacy strategies. So if you're like, man, I want to use literacy strategies, but I don't really know much about them. These three websites have a lot of different literacy strategies, and they're really easy to use. They are detailed, they have examples. They're three very solid sites. When we talk about creating a menu, like going back, and we talked a lot about supplementary texts and a lot about the tasks that go with them. When you're talking about creating the learning menu itself for an entire unit, you want to make sure that you do the following things. You want to offer a lot of different texts in a lot of different genres at many different reading levels, with scaffolding if necessary, and with lots of interest-based focuses. So that means that if you've got students that are really interested in athletics, maybe throw a sports twist in there. If you've got students that are really interested in entertainment or drama, maybe you throw a celebrity focus in there. Find out who your students are, do an interest inventory, find out what their interests are, and then try to connect those through your supplementary text. It's hard to make different things interest-based with an anchor text, because an anchor text is just one text, but supplementary text can be a variety of texts, and so you can really expand and differentiate and offer lots of alternative reading material for students based on whatever it is that your theme or your focus or your unit is on. Next thing you want to do in create a menu is you want to make sure that your point values are solid, that you don't have point values that where one person takes a minute to finish the task and one person takes 4 hours to finish the task and they earn the same amount of points. We want to make sure that if it's a really easy task, it gets a low point value. If it's a difficult, complex task that has higher level thinking skills, it gets a higher value. You can also make your point values rubric based. So for example, if your supplementary text is to actually do journaling, for example, the journals themselves can have a rubric based assessment or point value system assigned to it. So a 3 is an excellent journal, and a 2 is an okay journal, and a 1 is, well, you tried, and then a 0 is you didn't do it. So you can assign with rubrics also. Another thing to think about is to incorporate literacy strategies within those tasks. So everything that you do should have, or every supplementary task that you have should have some literacy-based strategy in there. They should be reading, they should be writing, they should be speaking, listening, or viewing. And if you can make sure that you have one of those in there, you're going to end up with really good tasks. Make sure also that you can differentiate by the type of literacy task. So if it's writing an essay as opposed to having a discussion, you might have more points on the essay. You also might want to suggest that students explore multiple options. And by suggest, I hope you can hear my air quotes, suggest with point values. As in, you need to have 5 different types, or you have to hit all of the reading, writing, speaking, listening, and viewing in order to get full points. You can also use tic-tac-toe or bingo guides for supplementary text. So it's like a menu inside of the main menu where you have different strategies lined up on a tic-tac-toe board or on a bingo card, and students have to make a line. And so that gives you a little bit more control over what kind of tasks that they're doing. So you can make sure that every line has a higher level thinking skill task. So in order to complete the tic-tac-toe or the bingo card, they have to do at least one high-level task. You can also, and you really should, require many different soup and salad options. Like I said, if I was creating a unit menu, I might have 1 a day, or maybe a little less than 1 a day. For a month-long unit, I might have 20 supplementary tasks that students have to do, and maybe the options are, there are 60 options and you have to choose 20. Obviously, I'd break it down a little bit more because having that many things would be a little overwhelming for students. But if it's just a journal assignment where you journal for 5 minutes at the beginning of class, and that's one of your tasks, then that makes it very simple to just get a little 5-minute shot in there of supplementary texts and move on. The last thing I want to do is offer some resources for content. In general, when you're looking for supplementary tasks, a Google search is always a good place to start. I always include teaching resources or lesson plans in my Google search so that I get teacher-oriented things. I find lots of great tasks and activities through Google with teacher resources and lesson plans in there. You can use any database that you have access to. YouTube is an excellent resource for videos, TeacherTube also, but I find that YouTube channels, there's so many educational YouTube channels that it's really easy to find great content through YouTube. And so subscribe to channels or search for channels that have an educational base. You can also use live binders and their search feature. Teachers use live binders a lot, and it creates a nice organizational strategy. It also lets you have access to all of the resources immediately, and you can just click and find that resource, and that's really nice. So take advantage of what people have already compiled. And then there's a teaching resources online for free. It's free.ed.gov, and that's through the government, and there are lots of great teaching resources through there. Specifically for content resources, I included a couple of social studies, a couple of English, and a couple of science resources that I found valuable. Vocabulary has the Week in Rap, so these are all current event resources. CNN Student News is fantastic, and then the New York Times has learning blogs with articles for students. For English language arts, Shmoop is probably my favorite website. They do novels, short stories, and poetry, and it's all student friendly. It's very it's very informal, and they talk about they summarize, they do characters, they do themes, and it's a really great resource. And they also include for science and social studies, they include videos and all kinds of great links to different things. So it's a fantastic resource. If you're looking for novels online, as a supplementary text, I often pull pieces of other novels. And so it's really nice to be able to have an online resource and to be able to direct students directly to a page where that resource is. Bartleby.com has novels online, and so I can go through, I can find the chapter that I want students to read, and I can say, okay, read this part. You can also use Scribble with that and or annotate and highlight the different areas that you want students to read. And that's a really nice way to use supplementary texts from novels without having to photocopy them. And then there's some great Pinterest pages from English teachers, and this is one of them. There's some great high school resources in there. For science, I've got Edutopia has lots of great stuff, and they had a blog that had 10 science resources that were all fantastic, so I just included the entire blog in there. PBS Learning Media has videos, and they're all PBS based, and they are fantastic. And then ScienceNetLinks.com has digital resources, videos, but also labs and stuff like that. So coming up next week, we're going to be talking about the entrees portion of our menu, and that's going to be the anchor text and what activities and tasks you can do with the anchor text in your class. So whether you're using a textbook or a film or a novel as an anchor text, we'll talk about ideas for incorporating activities with those and getting great technology and getting great literacy strategies involved in what students are doing with their anchor texts. My name is Kelly Stair. I'm a writer-teacher consultant with AngryBunnyPublishing.com. If you like this presentation, you'll love my ebook, VoiceThread for Digital Education, which is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other ebook retailers, or here on my Smashwords page. Also, next week and a half, QR Revolution comes out. You can pre-order it now for $2.99 at Smashwords. It comes out November 25th, where it'll be available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other ebook retailers. You can also join me every Tuesday and Thursday for more great teaching digital literacy strategies. Have a great day.